Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Game of Thrones Top 10 Show Original Characters. This video is where I count down my top 10 favorite characters from Game of Thrones who were not in the novels and were created specifically for the show. Now, sometimes the line on who is and isn't a show original character can be a bit blurred, as many show original characters serve the same function as character in the books, such as Talisa Maegyr, who served the same function as Jane Westerling as Robb Stark's wife, and Locke, who serves the same function as Vargo Hoat as the man who tracked down Jaime Lannister and chopped off his hand. However, in both cases, they're clearly not the same character, as they have completely different traits and backgrounds. However, where this line gets a bit murky is a character like Shae, as although she shares the same name and narrative function as her book counterpart, is particularly an entirely different character, where Shae in the show is a foreigner from Lorath who is a tough woman capable of defending herself and actually loves Tyrion, which is nothing like her book counterpart. However, I will make the final determination in such cases of what is and is not a show original character based on how much the show and the book differ. As in the case with Talisa and Locke, I think they are show original characters, but the case of Shae, I would say she is not a show original character. Now, if you disagree, that's fine, but the line has to be drawn somewhere, so I drew it. So it's just my countdown, so I just had to make the final decision. So let me give the standard spoiler warning for Game of Thrones up to Season 5. If you have not seen up to the end of Season 5, you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things may be spoiled for you. So now let me get to my top 10 Game of Thrones show original characters, starting with my number 10, Olyvar. Olyvar is a gay prostitute working for Peter Baelish in King's Landing. We first see him in Season 3 when he seduces Loras in order to gather information about the Tyrell's plans to marry him to Sansa. In Season 4, we see Olyvar seems to be operating Littlefinger's brothel in his absence, as he plays host to Oberyn Martell and Ellaria Sand. During some of Oberyn's sessions, we learn that Olyvar strictly prefers the company of men to that of women. In Season 5, Olyvar oversees Littlefinger's brothels as they are being destroyed by the Faith Militant. He is later used in a plot by Cersei to out Loras as being gay in order to put him and his sister Marjorie under arrest by the Sparrow Movement. Olyvar is an interesting enough character who seems to serve the plot fairly well as a gay character who first uses Loras, then tantalizes Oberyn, and finally is in fear of his life from the Sparrow Movement. Number 9 is Loboda. Loboda is a wildling Thenn that appeared in the episode Hardhome in Season 5. Loboda was an interesting character, as he was the leader of the Thenns at Hardhome, where most of the wildlings were hiding out after the failed attempt to take the wall. Loboda was very antagonistic to Jon Snow's offering of a temporary peace between the wildlings and the Night's Watch, and led a group that refused to return with them to the wall. However, once the White Walkers attacked Hardhome, Loboda put his feelings aside and fought right alongside with Jon Snow against a White Walker in an attempt to retrieve the Dragon Glass. But he was killed by that White Walker, making him quite an interesting character in my opinion, that he was too pig-headed to heed Jon Snow's offer of aid, but not so pig-headed that he wouldn't fight right alongside Jon Snow when the time came. Number 8 is Malco. Now, I'll be honest, Malco is mainly memorable because of the actor they chose to play him. The actor whose name I cannot pronounce, but is most well known for playing Mr. Echo on Lost and Adebisi on Oz. He's quite a good actor. I'm not sure why they gave him such a small role, but he was good in this role. Malco is a slaver who captures people to sell into slavery. His most memorable scene is where he talks about cutting off Tyrion's private parts and selling it to a cock merchant, so Tyrion must convince them to keep him alive until they find a cock merchant. And in the end, Tyrion convinces him that they're better off selling Jorah as a fighter in the fighting pits of Meereen. And at the auction, we see Malco outright lie, exaggerate, and get facts wrong as he claims Jorah was at the siege of Spike and was the first one through with his flaming sword. Kind of an amusing character who didn't appear that much but was memorable nonetheless. Number 7 is Rawls. One of the larger roles given to a show original character, Rawls first appeared in the very first episode and would make many appearances throughout seasons 1 and 2 up until her death midway through season 3. Rawls was a prostitute first at Winterfell but then traveled down to King's Landing where she became a trusted confidant of Littlefinger, who later had her killed by Joffrey when he learned that she was spying on him for Varys. While some speculate the main reason the show invented the character of Rawls is in order to have more sex and nudity in the show, and that may well be true, I feel she was meant to be our through guide through the prostitution world, as in the novels there were many roles that were filled by many different characters. It strikes me that the show simply wanted one character to fill all these roles, such as in Season 2 she took over the role of the character Alyaya, who in the novels was the prostitute that Cersei mistook for Tyrion's whore, who in fact was Shae. Although the part of her being Littlefinger's most trusted confidant and spy for Varys was entirely made up by the show, I do think it worked well enough. But I do agree with their decision to kill her character off in Season 3, as she was becoming less necessary for the main plot, but ultimately was quite an interesting character who added a bit to the King's Landing storyline. Number 6 is Myranda. Myranda didn't quite have a counterpart from the novels, not a significant one anyway, as she was portrayed as Ramsay Snow's girlfriend. She was first introduced in Season 3, who was tantalizing Theon with another girl right before Ramsay castrated him, and we next see her in Season 4 where she, along with Ramsay, hunt down that other girl who was with her before, and together they have her ripped apart by dogs for no good apparent reason. Charming girl. In Season 5, she plays the role in messing with Sansa, first out of jealousy, but then has a twisted partner of Ramsay, but at the end of Season 5, she is killed by Theon in order to enact Sansa's escape. Myranda was an interesting enough character who complimented Ramsay and sort of added to how twisted he was, so I thought she worked quite well. Number 5 is Locke. Locke served House Bolton as one of Roose's most trusted men. We later learned that he has a good relationship with Ramsay Snow. The two of them probably get along because they both are really fucked up individuals that like to torture people. In Season 3, Locke was sent to look for Jaime Lannister when he was reported missing, and did eventually come across Jaime and Brienne. When he and his men threatened to rape Brienne, Jaime convinced them not to by making up a lie about Brienne's father being filthy rich, so instead Locke chopped off his hand. As I said earlier, this role in the novels was played by Vargo Hoat, a sellsword from Qohor, who led a band of sellswords called the Brave Companions. The Brave Companions were not featured in the show. Instead, they created the character of Locke, who served House Bolton. In Season 4, they completely separated him from Vargo Hoat and gave him a storyline of tracking Bran and Rickon to Castle Black. There he posed as a Night's Watch recruit with a mission to learn where Bran and Rickon were and capture them. When he learned Bran was north of the Wall, he volunteered for a mission to Craster's Keep, where he found Bran and attempted to kidnap him, but Bran warged into Hodor and killed him to prevent this. Although I didn't entirely agree with the show's decision to cut out Vargo Hoat, I liked Lot and thought he worked well to establish how twisted the Boltons were, and thought the way they used him to tie Jon Snow and Bran's storylines together without the two of them ever actually meeting was very well done. Number 4 is Karl Tanner. Karl Tanner is loosely based off of two characters, Clubfoot Karl and Dirk, from the novels, both of whom were involved in the mutiny at Craster's Keep. However, the show focuses a lot more on Karl Tanner, giving him a background as a legendary fighter from Fleet Bottom, where he insists he was a legend. A fucking legend! Other people note that he is known as a quite skilled fighter with knives, and Jon Snow only manages to defeat him with the aid of one of Craster's wives. He first appeared in Season 3, but just barely, as he was shown as the man who instigated the rebellion at Craster's Keep and killed Craster. However, in season 4, he was explored more as a cruel leader of the Craster's Keep rebellion, who captured Bran, Mira, Jojen, and Hodor, and who tried unsuccessfully to fight off an attack from the Night's Watch. This character, although he didn't appear much, was a lot of fun, and he had tons of quotable lines as he was drinking from the wine from the skull of Jar fucking Mormont. He was a despicable, rapist, murdering bastard, but still a lot of fun, and it was so satisfying when Jon Snow drove that sword through his head. Number 3 is Karsi. Karsi is a wildling chieftain that appeared exclusively in the 5th season episode Hardhome. Karsi was a wildling chieftain who supported Jon Snow's proposal for peace, mainly because of her trust of Tormund Giantsbane, and when Loboda refused the offer, she famously noted how she fucking hates Thenns. The mother of two, she managed to get her children to safety before the White Walkers attacked Hardhome, but she died in the attack herself when she was killed by a bunch of white children. Karsi was an example of when the show totally did something right, as she only appeared in half of one episode and yet instantly became a fan favorite. I'm sure the showrunners are kicking themselves for killing her off, as she would have been an extremely popular character had they kept her around. But in those 20 minutes or less of screen time that she did get, she managed to make a huge impression as a really likable and memorable character that is one of the best examples of the show creating their own characters in a good way. Number 2 is Talisa Maegyr. Talisa took over the role of Jane Westerling from the novels as Robb Stark's wife, but shared little to no attributes with her book counterpart, as Jane was a young, naive girl from a minor house that served House Lannister, whereas Talisa was a bold doctor who was formerly a noblewoman from Volantis. Talisa met Robb while she was healing the Lannister men after a battle that he won. She was initially hostile towards him for starting the carnage, but eventually he worked to make her job easier, and they formed a romance, much to the chagrin of Robb's mother, Catelyn. However, after Catelyn was arrested for freeing Jaime Lannister, Robb went against her wishes and married Talisa, even though he was betrothed to the daughter of Walder Frey. Talisa and Robb's romance budded and grew to the point where she announced that she was pregnant with his son. However, some of Robb's bannermen pointed out how big a mistake it was for him to marry her, and indeed when Robb attempted to make amends to Walder Frey by marrying Edmure Tully, the Lord of the Riverlands, to one of his daughters, Walder took that moment to exact revenge on Robb for betraying him by killing him, his mother, his wife, and wiping out most of his army in an event infamously known as the Red Wedding. A lot of people were unhappy with the change from Jane Westerling to Talisa, but me personally, I really liked it. Robb in the novels was not as important or prominent of a character as he was in the show, and I think Talisa's presence is part of what helped flesh his character out a lot more. Talisa too was explored more in the show, as she was explained to be born to a noble family in Volantis, which is a city that keeps slaves. So it was explained that one day when she was a child, her brother's life was saved by a slave, so she vowed to become a healer and to never again live in a place where slavery was legal, hence why she moved to Westeros. She was a really well-developed character, and I thought the way that they explored her romance with Robb was completely believable and added a lot to the show, making her my number 2 favorite show original character. And my number 1 favorite show original character is the Spice King. The Spice King appeared in Season 2 of Game of Thrones as one of the 13 of the ruling council of Qarth, and mostly was the one who dealt with Daenerys Targaryen and was entirely antagonistic towards her goals. At first, he wanted to deny her access to Qarth, but after that was granted, he feigned friendship but denied her every request, including her request for ships and her request for assistance in locating her stolen dragons. He, along with the other members of the Council of the 13, were killed by Perret Pri in a plot by Zarozan Doxos to make himself king of Qarth. Of course, none of that happened in the books and the novels. The political situation in Qarth was quite different and was shown to be a much larger and more complex city. However, one of the ruling bodies was a spice guild, so it seems that the show condensed that into one character, the Spice King. And I gotta say, I absolutely love this character. He was so sharp and witty and always had a cool comeback to put the very arrogant Daenerys in her place. Every scene with this guy brought a smile to my lips and made it so much more interesting. He had a lot of great quotes like,
"You promised to receive me."
We have received you. Here we are, and here you are.
You grant me now will be repaid 3 times over when I retake the Iron Throne.
Retake? Did you once sit on the Iron Throne?
My father sat there before he was murdered.
But if you did not sit on it yourself, would it not be correct to say, take the Iron Throne?
And I will take what is mine. With fire and blood, I will take it.
Yes, my lady, but not with my ships.
I was kind of disappointed they didn't keep him along longer, but I still cherish the scenes he was in that really enriched the quality of Season 2, making the Spice King my #1 favorite show original character. So that's it for my top 10 Game of Thrones show original characters. Be sure to check out my channel for many more Game of Thrones videos, as I try to do at least one a week as we count down towards Season 6. And I'd also like to thank all of my subscribers, as my channel has just reached 4,000 subscribers. I'm very humbled my channel has grown so much, as I'm just a guy in my spare time chatting away about the shows I like to watch. So I really appreciate everyone's support and all the kind and supportive comments that I've received. It really helps keep me going in the times where I sometimes doubt myself. So I want to really thank you all for your support. But if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that to keep up with all the Game of Thrones and other videos I plan on doing, and be sure to check me out on Facebook. I'll put a link to my Facebook page in the description below, and thanks a lot for watching.